The fact that there's been no new one and there's been fairly big companies out there that would kind of like to have a browser. I think the fact that they haven't built one from scratch indicates that it's not easy, and I would be surprised, frankly, if there was one that came from scratch. I think, I mean, it is really, I mean, for me, it's important that everyone has access to the web. And I think people have access to the web from different devices. I think realistically, if you had different platforms that were incompatible on the different kinds of devices, the complexity for developers is too high and it makes it very difficult for end users. We've seen a very nice trend on the PC side, where you now can choose a PC, Mac or a Linux computer, and it will work for you independently of the operating system. You'll be able to exchange files for the most part. You'll be able to access the same content and services as your friends using different computers. That's a very big change, and I think a lot of people have forgotten about how the world was before this. I think clearly there's a risk in the short term that you'll have devices that are incompatible, that you'll have to write different applications for the different devices, and that doesn't scale for developers, and it definitely doesn't scale for end users that would like to be able to exchange and mix and match different devices from different manufacturers. I think, I mean, obviously what you have to look at, what is something like Chrome OS all about? It's taking a Linux kernel and putting the browser on top. In many ways, we have been doing this for more than 10 years. I mean, our first set-top box deliveries, where you would see a user interface on the set-top box, you wouldn't be able to see that there's a browser underneath. Everything is running on top of the browser, but you don't see the browser. The browser is hidden, it's running the applications, it's controlling the device and the like, but you don't see it. So in many ways, we've been delivering this for more than 10 years, but we haven't in particular been focusing on building that operating system piece. We've been rather focusing on building what goes on top of that. And again, I mean, the difference between us and what Google is doing is it's not that big from that perspective, because they're building, they're not building an OS piece themselves. I mean, they're taking something like Linux and they're building something on top of that. Well, I think, I mean, we can cover just about any device out there independent of operating system. I mean, you can download an Opera browser to your different PCs, the PCs, the Linux, the Macs, and the like. You can download Opera to almost any phone out there, and you can, and we have the capability as a company to deliver on televisions, on set-top boxes, on game consoles, and anywhere else. That gives us a unique reach, and I think that's really valuable. Currently, there's about 2 billion people online, mostly on the PC side. What you're seeing is a very significant growth on the mobile side. Clearly, there's more. I mean, there's 2 billion PC users. There's 4.5 billion mobile users. Those people will gradually also get on the internet through their mobile phones, and the number of mobile phone users will continue to increase. In addition to that, you will have televisions and set-top boxes and cars and media players and photo frames. And I mean, in the future, your stove and your refrigerator will also be connected. All the devices, electronic devices that have any kind of user interface, I believe in the future will be connected, interconnected, and connected to the internet. Well, you'll start to see applications that build on top of those. So you'll have the different devices you'll be able to, for example, remote control your television from your mobile phone. You'll be able to remote control your stove from your mobile phone. You'll be able to stream things from your television or your set-top box to your mobile phone or to your car. I mean, there's a lot of potential services that you can make. You can have an automatic system where you go into the house and for example, you're taking some photos on your camera, it will automatically synchronize with a device for backup purposes, maybe then putting it into the cloud afterwards. All of those things are technically feasible today. Some of them are already being built. We believe that the best way to build this is obviously using web technology, so it can stay I mean, so you just buy different devices and they just work together. You buy software that makes them work together, and it's web-based, and you don't need to buy from only one brand, for example. All your devices in your home will be connected, but they will be connected through web standards. And I mean, typically what is happening a lot now is that people are using the Wi-Fi connection for all kinds of devices, but also wired connections. It doesn't really matter from our point of view which one is being used. It's just a bearer of connections. You could theoretically, I guess, get the web even over Bluetooth. And then but you do still have the benefit that it's easier to write applications using web standards, and then you have the remote control from far away. I mean, that gives you something extra. The fact that all the devices are connected, it's connecting through open standards, and that you can connect them from anywhere. We as a company, we've been in many ways leading the innovation when it comes to internet on different kinds of devices. I mean, we've been doing mobile browsers now for 10 years. We've been doing television browsers or using web technology for television for 10 years. We've been thinking about how you get these different devices interconnected for many years, and we come up with solutions that allow you to do that. Our goal as a company is to be at the edge, to kind of look at the most innovative ways to enable programmers to build fantastic things. I mean, we are focusing on the basic. We're focusing on the browser. We're focusing on the infrastructure, building that, and then you'll see developers building great applications just like they have for the web. Well, I mean, in some ways, we are already seeing these things. I mean, one of the bigger ones that we build is Opera Unite. I mean, Opera Unite is a feature in our desktop browser where you're able to download applications. There's a few applications that are included that can serve data and services from your PC. So from that perspective, for example, if you'd like to share your photos, but you would rather have them on your PC instead of putting them in the cloud, you can do that, and people can connect directly to your PC. Now, there are then services that people have been building using this technology to do interesting things. One of them is, for example, if you add something to a folder on one computer, it will automatically go to another one. So there's an application that does that. Another one is, I'll draw something on my screen, you'll see it on your screen. You want to send me a big file, you will put it straight into my computer, instead of putting it somewhere on the net and letting me fetch it. All of this is already built in, but there's a few applications that's been made, and then there will be more applications as developers start to use the technology even more. I mean, we'll continue to focus on, I mean, for us, I mean, the cloud is important, but 5 years ago we started thinking about what comes after the cloud, because we were thinking the cloud doesn't scale. You don't want everything in one place. You don't want to have 20 devices in your home and they're all connected to the cloud. You want them interconnected. So this provides another dimension to the use of the web. And again, I mean, for the longest time, we've been saying there is one web that you connect to, the one web with the mobile phone, with the PC and the like. That is coming to fruition. I believe what we're talking about here with all the different devices connected and interconnected is something that will come to fruition. And obviously, we take pride in actually being there, helping shape the future. And I think that's a goal for us, to help shape the future. So we bought Fastmail as a company because what they provide is a great webmail service. It's a webmail service where the focus is on kind of less is more. It's about being speedy. It's about being simple. There's a lot of people that do not have connectivity today, that do not have internet, that do not have email. I think we can help maybe make that even more prevalent. I mean, focusing on the lower end of the market as well as the higher end of the market. The typical technologically, I mean, the technical companies tend to focus on the higher end. The typical thinking is that by next year the devices will be faster, the networks will be faster, the screens will be bigger, don't worry. Our approach is different. We are trying to gather for a bigger size of the market. Instead of focusing only on the high end, which we also focus on, we'll focus on the broad range of devices and a broad range of users, and we'll try to adapt to the users, and this will apply to mail as anything else. Well, in a way, I mean, Fastmail is that, but we'll be doing something more. Yes, we will, but we will have to see when that arrives. There's multiple aspects to this. One of it is that if you were to access all the internet content through apps, you'd have to have hundreds of millions of apps. That doesn't scale. So there's the internet as a whole, you'll be accessing through the web browser. Now, you will have applications. I think it makes sense to have some applications. You could obviously have bookmarks instead. In many ways, the applications are more like bookmarks than anything else, but still, you can choose to use applications. I think the applications will be web-based, because otherwise you'll have to write an application for every single platform out there. The scope of that job is too big, and it makes it difficult for end users to be able to switch devices also. If you have a situation where the applications are device specific and your services are device specific, it's bad to the bad old days. The bad old days where if you didn't like Windows, you would still have to use it because otherwise you wouldn't be able to exchange files and documents and use the same service as your friends. So I don't think anyone really wants to go back there. And so from end user's perspective, from a developer's perspective, the idea of native applications replacing the web is a bad solution. Web-based applications are fine because they still maintain the fact that it's easy to provide applications across different devices. The browser will be the neutral platform. So as a developer, you will still have the choice. Do you want to provide access through the browser in the form of web pages, or do you access through applications? You still have the choice, but the browser will be the underlying technology in both cases. I think people will be accessing their social networking sites through the browser also in the future. I think some people will choose to use the applications. I think the applications over time will migrate to using web standards. What is definitely happening is that we're going everywhere. I mean, that's a big thing. I mean, we already covered most all mobile phones, so clearly what we are focusing on is continuing the improvement of the product, listening to end user feedback and doing better. I mean, that's always a focus for us. But adding new devices. I mean, recently we've been doing a lot of television deals. That's a big deal for us. There's a lot of things happening in the set-top box world and the like. Overall, a lot of focus has also been on things like Unite, interconnecting the devices, thinking about the next level of technology, and then also finding ways which we can better adapt to the user. I mean, provide them with better services. The mail is an example of that, where we are trying to provide people with a soft entry into the world of the internet, because the reality is so many users are getting their first use of the internet through Opera on a mobile phone or on a different kind of device. So the idea here is, I mean, on the mobile side, people seem to be thinking you can't use the same business models on mobile as you can on desktop. I don't agree with that. And I think you'll find, I mean, big companies like Google have said that over time you expect to see twice the kind of revenue per ad on mobile as you see on PCs. I think that's a more likely long-term scenario. So given this fact, I mean, currently it's all about apps and ringtones. I think there's a lot more to the internet and to the mobile than apps and ringtones. I think people in general would like to do the same thing on the mobile phones that people are doing on the PC. Whether they're doing it as a secondary device, or even more so if it's their primary way of accessing the internet, they still would like to do the same things. They would like to be able to order stuff, buy things, not only ringtones and apps. They would like to be able to buy actual stuff and have it delivered to them. I think there's a great opportunity on the mobile side to enable that, to actually make it even easier to order and pay for things on the mobile phone than it is on PC. It's quite often easier to identify you on the mobile phone. If you have a subscription, it's easier to identify you, and you can actually use location information to know where you are. So there's a lot of things that can enable commerce at a totally different level. And I think that's a bigger change, and will have a much more profound change in the world than everyone getting ringtones and apps. So as you mentioned, I guess I derailed a little bit. I started talking about advertising. I'll get back to the advertisement part, and I ended up talking about payment. In many ways, it's because I see them as interlinked. I see the issue that you need to resolve to have a fully working ecosystem on the mobile phone is one is to get payment working. So we want to work with different providers of payment, operators and others, to enable easy payment on the mobile phone. I think that's an important thing that we'd like to see solved. And then on the other side, okay, when you have that, you can have more relevant ads for the mobile phone. I think in many ways the issue now for advertisers and for content providers is that there isn't enough